this is why I'm saying don't be surprised in this environment, especially in the volatile climate that's out there and how bad things can get, because things can get bad real fast over there.
Everyone, I am really happy to have with me a guest who many of you have seen before on Yankee Stacking's channel. With me today, Chief Investment Officer from Blackstone Commodity Group. I have Mukarram Mawjood. How are you, Mukarram?
Great, Stormy. It's great to be on your show. Excited, especially with everything that's going on and all of the different shows that we've done as well.
Absolutely. I instantly, when I got an email notification from your office that you wanted to work with me, I'm like, that's that guy that I've seen on Yankees channel talking about investing in precious metals. And I thought that it would be great to have you on my channel. And for all the viewers that are watching right now, I want you to understand this isn't a paid sponsorship or anything like that. I genuinely like to have people on this channel who I think are going to bring some education to all of you and be able to provide a solid service. And so that's why, Mukarram, I had you on today, because truth be told, and it was funny because you were asking me about, charts. Do I examine charts, everything like that? I'm like a stacker collector and not so much a finance guy. And so I thought that this would be a great time for me to actually ask you questions that I have for myself. And I know a lot of the viewers watching this are going to have the similar questions. So are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So here's the first thing. A lot of people are talking about precious metals prices. Specifically, with in the last month, we saw precious metals just continually drop. Silver dropping day after day, gold dropping day after day after day. And a lot of people don't know, hey, is this the right time to buy? Do I hold out and wait a little longer until it drops even further? And then obviously with the war that just broke out this last weekend in Israel, now we are starting to see a bump in the precious metals prices. And so I wanted to ask you specifically, over the years that you've been in this industry, what have you seen with precious metals prices as it relates to geopolitical conflicts such as war?
Yeah, I think, when we look at the pricing question, the way you put it, I think we just need to take a step back and look at precious metals as a whole, especially in the way that they've performed in the last year and a half, right? So I know that we've had precious metals, especially gold and silver, come down quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, okay? But I don't think that's the main picture or the main thing that people should be focusing on, simply because if you go back to the earlier part of this year, at least the first few months or a few months ago, you saw that gold went to almost a new record high.
Yes.
Okay. And then silver had a great move as well. So what I need people to understand is that first, because a lot of people might think of this price coming down as, oh, is this a bear market? Is this something that can continue to go lower? It's not. It's just because it's a corrective phase within a market that's already established a new record high this year, right? So if you went from 1,600 and change, I think, to almost 2,100 in the last few months, then you expect the market to pull back, okay? Now, here's what's interesting and remarkable about that move from the 1,600 to 2,100. That movement happened during the most aggressive rate hike cycle that we've been on, right? Like usually you expect gold to come lower as the interest rates go higher and the dollar gets stronger. But this is showing you intrinsic strength in gold, that it wants to go higher. It's already tested its record high and broke it, right? And it's done that twice. Actually, last year it went over 2,000, then pulled back, and then settled around that 1,700 level. This year, it did the same thing, right? So what you're seeing is actually good, healthy price action in the gold market and silver. Now, I get it. Silver is more volatile than gold, okay? So if gold goes up significantly, silver tends to go up more, right? And if gold pulls back like it did for the last 2.5 weeks, silver's going to pull back. Sometimes it feels like that was more of a more intense of a move, right? It came down much more than you expected. But both markets in gold and silver, they were supported at a very nice support zone, okay? Which is why sometimes I know it's boring to go over charts and things like that, but I'll show you if we have time where these markets kind of settled out and then started to go higher. Now, here's what's interesting. I think I shared this in a couple other channels, the Yankee Show as well. This is something we learned as junior traders long time ago, and as we evolved in the space. If you have a fundamentally good trade, so I want to explain that to your viewers. A fundamentally good trade means that all of the fundamentals are working out, in favor of that trade. The math is coming into play. The geopolitical environment or the fiscal policy environment is coming into play. If you have a fundamentally good trade, like for example, our economy is in trouble. We know that, right? We have issues with interest rates, being at record highs. We have a housing crisis coming on. We have a UAW strike. So there's a lot of fundamental issues that make gold a good trade. So the secret to this is to understand that if you have a fundamentally good trade, then when you have geopolitical tensions and events that you can't control, when they unravel, it makes a good trade an extraordinary trade.
Right.
This is why it's very important for people to position themselves in the correct mathematically prime time in particular markets, because when these events unfold, suddenly you can see $100-$200 movement in gold, right? Like look at oil. Oil was coming down just in the same period that you were talking about gold going higher. It came down from $97 a barrel to almost maybe 78 or so. And then in one night, when this happened over the weekend, oil was up $5 in one night.
Yeah.
$5. Okay. Now, I also remember, because you asked about, what happens with geopolitical tensions. I remember in the mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006, when the last Hezbollah conflict happened with the Golan Heights, and they had kidnapped a soldier and things like that with Israel. I remember gold was trading around $250 or $280. It was up $100 or so in a week. Now that's a big move.
Huge.
For a market that was trading at $250, because that's more than 50%, right? This is why I'm saying don't be surprised in this environment, especially in the volatile climate that's out there, and how bad things can get, because things can get bad real fast over there, right? If that happens and if that escalates, don't be surprised if you see significant percentage moves in gold and silver.
Now, do you think that's because people generally have, you always hear about fear, right? When you see things unraveling and getting worse, people are fearful that, other countries are going to get involved. And then, you have a domino effect where we're going to end up in some sort of, a World War III scenario. I mean, we have Russia and Ukraine right now. You have, Israel and Hamas fighting right now. And then you have, people saying that China is kind of like looking over at Taiwan, and so do you see these bumps in the spot prices because of fear? Is like, what is actually then causing those spikes? What drives those spikes to turn a falling spot price to, now it looks like it's on the way up?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. I think, again, that's a price action question, right?
Okay.
So when you look at, if you approach the question as why do you see the spikes? Spikes could be news related.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not really concerned about spikes as much as investors or individuals who are getting out of the stock market and then moving money into physical precious metals, because the stock market could come down significantly. You're trying to protect an IRA or a 401k. You're not looking at gold, especially physical gold. You don't look at it on a daily basis, right? The price movement. So if you look at spikes, like if gold's up $20 in a day or $30 in a day, most of that price movement is news related. It could be a knee-jerk reaction, right? But what you need to understand is the bigger picture behind those price spikes is that gold is in a bull market, okay? And because of that, and why is it in a bull market? It's because, like you said, there's a lot of issues going on right now. Like we just touched on them economically. I mean, even the Fed chair a week ago, when they had their Fed decision, he talked about major issues in the economy that, if left unchecked, could get worse, right? Could deteriorate. That's why gold is going higher. It's because gold is a safe haven play. Yes, fear comes into play, and people want to buy gold when they're afraid something might get worse. But what you're noticing is after this hike in interest rates over the last year and a half, since 2022, early 2022, just by the way, we have to say this, it's the most aggressive, intense rate hike that we've had ever in the history of our country.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the highest rate we've been at, but the most aggressive in terms of meeting after meeting after meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Continuous. That led to a US dollar strengthening that I've gone over on other channels as well as on charts I've shown. We have created a double top in the dollar.
Okay.
And that double top is a 20-year double top. The last top in the dollar that was close to where we were a couple of weeks ago was in 2002. Okay.
A long time ago.
So so now we've had a 20-year double top, or 2003. We've had a 20-year double top. And what we believe is the next major cycle or major phase for the dollar is for it to come down, because it's gone up, had created that double top.
Sure.
A double top simply means you have a high, a record high some years ago, and then it comes down, creates a low, and then goes back up and creates another high, which could be either slightly lower or slightly higher than the previous high.
Right.
And if there's a number of months or years in this case, if you have years, 20 years, that's a very, very significant double top. So the next highest probability direction for the dollar is for it to come down. So the smart money, not the fear money, not the fearful money, but the smart money is going into gold and other major commodities, because they believe that there could be a commodity super cycle that can come in.
Yeah.
That's why you're seeing gold move higher, and also hold, even though like it could go 5 steps up, 2 steps down, 5 steps up. So don't get worried when you see gold pull back, because it's pulling back inside of a bull trend. Okay. Now these spikes, like I said, or you might get major moves, like gold may go $200-300 at a time, right? It might not happen in a day, but I've seen gold move up. Sometimes I've seen $100 in a couple of days before, right? But you'll see that if you get escalation in the geopolitical tensions. Now, going back and looking at that, let's say, if you see, hey, can that be lasting? Because you mentioned a few things: China, Taiwan, Ukraine, Russia, the Middle East. The most pressing concern right now is in the Middle East, okay? Yeah. And the closest bordering states to Israel. Because if you look at Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, Jordan, Egypt, that's a very volatile hotspot, okay? And earlier today, just a few hours ago, when I was trading the markets, we found out that there may have been militants from from Lebanon coming through the northern border of Israel, right? Now, that's a bigger conflict than an area that's maybe twice the size of Washington, D.C., that they're trying to defend, in terms of Gaza. The bigger conflict would be the Hezbollah, Lebanon, Syria. I was just reading an article where one of the leaders of Hamas, who is in Doha, Qatar, and he was calling for people from Jordan and Syria and Egypt to join in on this fight. Now, these are things that cause big spikes in the middle. Yeah. So I took a little longer on that.
No, it all makes sense, and it's good. It's good to look at it in the way that you explained it, because what I have to do, because as you know, I buy and sell physical silver and gold on a daily basis, and every Tuesday on the channel, and I'm always looking at the prices, because for me, when I'm buying the physical stuff, I'm watching, as the days pass, if gold is going up, I'm like, okay, good, because Tuesday the following week, when I'm having my big sale, I'm going to have, a higher profit margin. Or as it's dropping throughout the week, I'm like, crap, I'm going to have a terrible night in profit. So from the perspective of your average investor who does get an IRA with your firm, it's just like as if somebody had a 401k and you're not necessarily looking at every single daily movement. It's up a little bit or it's down the next day. For me, it's a lot more magnified is what I'm trying to say. So I'm glad that you kind of put it into in a perspective that, yeah, we're seeing a little bit of a dip, but it's a dip in a bull cycle. Or, yeah, we're starting to see a little increase, but it's part of this bull cycle. It's not something that you need to get too hung up on right now. It's something that you got to look at in the big picture. So that makes sense. What I did want to ask you about is the benefits of having, physical precious metals on hand and the benefits of investing in an IRA, with a firm such as yours, with Blackstone Commodity Group. So a lot of people that watch my channel, as you know, are stackers, right? People that stack precious metals and they like to hang on to it. And you are one as well. And you had asked me before we started, did I see your a little bit of your video the other day with Yankee? I said, no, I didn't. But now I'm actually remembering. This is my dementia. Yes, I actually do remember. Crystal was in the background getting stuff for you, and you're pulling out tube after tube after tube of gold. It just, for whatever reason, it just like, oh yeah, I did see it. So anyhow, you are a stacker. You do believe in owning physical. You did do a private deal with me the last time we spoke, but I know you also invest in other forms of silver and gold. So can you talk to me and the viewers about why you should have an IRA and why you should have physical metals?